From an undisclosed location high in the Hollywood Hills, it's time once again for the long shot, come hell or high water. Tonight's episode, you have not smelled my breath in 2 years. And now, please welcome the host of the long shot, Sean Conroy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, good day, good dawn, good dusk, good night, good noon. I don't know what the rest are. Good desk. Welcome to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. I am your host. My name is Sean Conroy. With me today on the podcast is not Joe Wagner. Also with me, not on the podcast today, not Jamie Flam. So it is another episode with myself and the great, the spectacular, the amazing, the wonderful Amber Kenny is here.
Hello.
I feel like
faking energy.
I feel like I was thinking about this today, like there's been a few episodes now where it's just you and me. And I feel like we need like a subtitle for those episodes, you know, like it feels almost like a heavyweight fight. Like there was like the Thriller in Manila and the Rumble in the Jungle, you know, and it's like we need our own version of that for when it's just
a subgenre.
Mm-hmm. I don't have it, but I think
me neither.
Yeah. So if you are a listener of the show and you have an idea, what about this? What about
send a video of you writing down the name?
What about this? What if you take a picture of yourself sending a video
and thinking
of you
about
writing down? That's how we do contests here at the Long Shot. It's time for What's the Matter Today on a Saturday. That's not great, but it's not the worst.
It's really emphasizing the day.
Yeah, there's a lot of day in that. What about this? What about Sean and Amber? It's time for Hours of Thrills from the Hollywood Hills.
Love it. Hopefully it's not too many hours.
Or too many thrills. I'm fine with lots of hills, but not too many hours and not too many thrills. So here we are. It's you and me. I was watching, but by the way, I just wanted to mention this before we get into it because what were we just talking about that reminded me of it? I don't know, but I'll certainly. Oh, Charles Manson. We were just talking about Charles Manson before we started. And
Sean and I always say hello, and we're like, hello. Have you thought about Charles Manson lately? Like the normal greetings.
Well, it was just weird when I said, how are you doing? And you were like, helter skelter. You know? But we were just talking about Charles Manson. And I did just, because we had talked about this a few weeks ago, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Quentin Tarantino, and I just rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I have to see it.
It is so good. Like I love it. I loved it when I saw it the first time, and rewatching it, I loved it even more. I was like, I just remember there was a guy, I saw it at the ArcLight, RIP, and in the Dome, which is where you're supposed to see that kind of movie. It's actually weird to see a movie in the Dome when the Dome is in the movie, but
oh wow! And then you were in the Dome watching, like
I was seeing myself from the outside. Yeah, it was almost like Mulholland Drive. It was like a David Lynch movie.
We went to the Dome to see Toy Story 4, and this is a really short side story. And we, like, Jeff bought tickets ahead of time. Like, he was like, oh, it's going to be sold out. And it's a children's movie, and children don't go to the Dome. So it was almost empty. And it was fine.
Come right in. Have a seat. But I really got into it this time. And I was like reading about articles about it. Not reading about articles, but reading articles.
Reading about articles.
I took a picture of myself making a video of me reading about articles about watching it.
Drawing a picture of.
But, the first time I saw it, I just kind of absorbed it for what it was.
Right. You just let it wash over you.
It was clearly, it was a full-throated expression of Tarantino's love for movies and love for Hollywood. But of course, all of it is based on real things, like real stuff he saw, real stuff he experienced, real movies, real people. Not the show Real People, which was a terrible show in the 80s about using video footage. Anyway, if you could send us a video of yourself watching real, but
we're going to get all of these.
I did. It just was so interesting to me to sort of go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like all the things that, like Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who
Leo Dio,
whose name I can't even remember off the top of my head. I should know it. I just saw the movie like 3 days ago, but he is based. Well, there's all kinds of theories about these things, and of course, none of them are confirmed. But one of the things is DiCaprio's character and Brad Pitt's character are based on Burt Reynolds and his stuntman Hal Needham and their relationship, which makes total sense, right down to the fact that in one of the episodes they show on the within the movie, like there's lots of like, this is what the actor that DiCaprio is playing has done in his career, and They show clips from it. And in one of them, he's just ardently chewing gum for no reason, which is such a signature Burt Reynolds move, And then when you realize that Reynolds was like in all these Westerns in the 50s and 60s, but didn't really make it big until Smokey and the Bandit in the 70s. And DiCaprio kind of had, Rick Dalton, that's the name of his character, Rick Dalton. And he has this career of like, he's on this TV show, but now he's kind of washed up and he's going nowhere. And I don't want to give away the end of the movie, but this is what happens. Okay. No. Anyway, it was
welcome back to We Recap Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Well, but no, the real thing I was thinking about was I listened to a podcast where people had just seen the movie, and one of the people on the podcast, the two of them had gone together, and one of them, this is kind of what we talked about last week, or whenever we talked about these Tarantino movies, was like, Tarantino isn't really my thing. I don't really enjoy Tarantino stuff. But then she was like, but I loved being in this movie because I was sitting next to you and how much you were enjoying the movie. And that just made me start thinking about how much I missed that experience of being in the audience with people who are enjoying the same thing and connecting with people in that almost like a spiritual level of like, we are all so engaged in this right now, So yes. I look forward to the future. I don't know what that means. Anyway, big week for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Charles Manson. It makes me want to go back and watch the movie Hooper, which is, I never saw Smokey and the Bandit as a kid, but I did see the movie Hooper, which was a movie that Burt Reynolds did about being a stuntman. And I think it'd be interesting to watch that movie now, having seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, about his relationship with his own stuntman,
right?
To the point where he felt like he wanted to make a movie about what it was like to be a stuntman at one point, after he had become sort of rich and famous and was accomplished. Anyway, that's just what was going on with me over the course of the week. So
was that your checking in?
No, that wasn't my checking in. I have other stuff for checking in.
Okay.
If we even have time to get to it with all the other stuff going on. I did get a haircut this week.
It looks nice.
Thank you. I went for the first time. I had cut my hair 4 times myself during this whole thing. And I finally texted my friend who cuts my hair, and she was like, yeah, come in. So I drove to Pasadena, sat in the chair, got it all done. Yeah. And again, that was like a moment of like, okay, things are starting to become normal again.
I have an appointment for a haircut on the 25th.
So it looks good.
Time.
Oh, you haven't gone yet? Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I did wear a mask the whole time I was in there. It was the day before the new CDC guidelines came out, I think, but that's a whole other thing now that they're like, oh yeah, you just take your mask off. It's fine. So we'll see how that goes. But then there's like local, I don't know, who knows what's going on with all that stuff. Right. It's very confusing. Although I love that people are furious at other people for wearing masks now. The CDC said you don't have to, you fucking asshole.
Like, you don't know what's going on in my life. I might have bad breath. I might be protecting you.
I mean, that is not a might, by the way. I don't know if you awkward.
You have not smelled my breath in 2 years.
So long. Well, I mean, that's another thing. It is not that specifically, but extrapolating from that, we could end up starting to do this in person again sometime soon.
That's crazy.
If we wanted to, we could do it right now. I don't want to, but it's perfectly legal at this point and perfectly safe.
Yeah.
And I don't think, there's this whole thing now of like, do people need vaccine passports or not? And I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think it's possible for it to happen, which works out pretty well for me.
I know. I was going to ask you, do you have any leads on?
I did get a note from one of our listeners saying, try this. And it's like a New York, I think it's called Excelsior Plus, and it's an app for getting like a downloadable thing for your phone that says because the state supposedly has kept track. Not every state does this, but New York State does keep track of who's vaccinated and who's not. But I had coincidentally found that last night before I even got this note from this person. And it was a note, by the way. It was tied to the leg of a pigeon.
There was a video of a picture.
No, it was a message. This is how fucking crazy it is. You never know where you're going to get stuff from people. This was a message on Instagram. So I had to go, who's requesting to be? But anyway, I looked on this app and I was unable to find so I don't even know if it's on there or they fucked it up or something, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll find it someday. And by then we'll know if you need a vaccine passport or not. It doesn't seem like they can do that though. If it's that difficult to find, I can't be. Maybe I am the only person who's lost theirs, but I feel like some other people must have. And it's like, what are we going to do? Isolate those people and keep them in their houses for the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 20 years?
I don't know.
Till we get to herd immunity? All right. We always start the show with a segment that we like to call checking in. Let's start today with Joe. No. Jamie. No. Amber checking in.
I have a lot. It was a big week for me.
Thank God, because we are low on volume.
On accident, so as of Wednesday, I'm fully inoculated. Mm-hmm. Like I'm
2 weeks out from your last shot.
2 weeks out from my shot. As of last Wednesday, and then I had a text thread with friends from work that we were trying to hang out like December 2019 and the date kept getting pushed and then a pandemic happened.
Was it for a specific event or you just wanted to hang out?
Just like, just to have dinner, just to catch up in person. So it got pushed so much. And the fact that none of us gave up on that is amazing. Like we even said that, like if any of them had just been like, fuck those people forever, I would have understood.
I think that is amazing. The flip side is I think it's weird that you guys texted each other every day and were like, what about tomorrow? Nope. Still the pandemic. Still not vaccinated.
Let's circle back tomorrow.
How about tomorrow? No.
But so we had this thread, and we weren't talking actually that often, but I don't know. I want to say a week ago, it doesn't matter. They were like, hey, for real, let's try to meet up sometime soon.
You're joking. No, for real.
And I said, I'm in the clear starting the 12th. So like, let's talk about it. The way scheduling works with multiple people, I don't know if you've noticed, it's difficult. All of a sudden it was like, great, we're definitely having dinner together on the 13th. And I kind of was like, oh, okay. Like not that I, it wasn't like I was completely peer pressured, but I don't know if I would have chosen to go out that soon.
They were calling you on your bullshit.
Kind
and you
of,
were like,
yeah.
Wait, what? No, I meant like
I meant
3
in
months.
a month or two. Yeah. So I was like, okay. One of the girls lives in Santa Monica, and then 2 of us are here on the east-ish side. And so
we got reservations in Santa Monica.
Well, yeah, they were like, maybe we can meet halfway, maybe we could meet in Culver City. And I was fully having a panic attack. And I finally decided to be honest with them because they're my friends. And I was like, hey, I want to see you guys. I'm going to be completely honest. I am still scared to drive great distances, especially at night, because I basically haven't done it in a year. Can we go somewhere closer to me? Like, sorry, this is embarrassing. And they were like, absolutely. And so we went very close. And but I thought I was going to be freaking out a lot more. Like, I was like, bye, Jeff, I'm going to a wine bar. Like, what is happening? And but it was lovely. Because we were all vaccinated, and it was the day they said that you don't have to even wear masks inside, but everyone wore masks everywhere unless you were at your table, which it doesn't do anything because once you're at your table, there's still people around. So I don't understand that logic.
Well, I think a lot of restaurants have like a magic shield around the table there, right?
Right. Well, and when the servers put down their food right next to you and you're not wearing a mask, they're fine.
Yeah. So you were inside at the restaurant?
It was sort of outdoors.
Uh-huh.
But it was still weird to be in public and like ordering at a menu and sitting. It was all very strange. It was also strange because I love these girls, but I don't think I would have picked them to be my first 2 people I saw in the world.
You're gonna remember it forever. I mean, this is imprinted on your brain forever.
So I was like, you guys are my first hugs. Like, this is it. And that was really nice. And then here's the other thing. So I'm telling you, I have a lot to say. Last weekend, our good friends, Eric Dodorian and Drew Koshgarian, who live in Baltimore now.
I know Eric. I know Drew.
Yeah, they're great. And they just had a baby a couple months ago. I'm bad with time. But Eric sent us a message on Sunday.
I don't know.
So less than a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what is your vaccination status? And we told him on Wednesday we're fully clear. And he's like, how are Friday nights for date nights? And we were like, they're good. We didn't know what they were asking. They live in Baltimore. And he's like, check your inbox. He sent us tickets to a Dodgers game for Friday.
Holy
so
shit.
it was another instance of like, I guess we're going to a Dodgers game. Like, I have no...
Yes. Hello. This is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hi, my name is Amber Kenny. I'm wondering if you could play outside my house. Because I don't like to drive. Yeah, absolutely. We can meet you halfway.
But like on paper, I look like I'm someone who's like, I got fully inoculated and then I like
just went crazy.
The deep end.
Yeah.
But like it was all external forces.
Yeah.
And it was great. And because we went to the baseball game and Smudgy still feels a little too little to be trusted and he's not fully vaccinated, that's a whole other story. So he can't even go to like daycare. We had our friend Lampy come and pet sit. So Lampy was our first human being in this apartment.
Mm-hmm.
so that was a big deal. And then we left and went to a baseball game. And so you talking about wanting to be in a crowd? Well, first of all, just everything was overwhelming. Like I felt like a little kid. Like the noises were loud. When we sat down, the game had already started. We were a little late. And I truly couldn't. It took me a while to figure out what to look at. Like where to put my attention, even in the game. Like
what's great about baseball is it doesn't matter because it's so slow and it's so boring that you can look at anything and be like, oh, nothing happened since I.
But it was a great game. And the third inning, the Dodgers scored 8 runs, like the entire. And so, everyone was standing up and cheering, and I started crying just because, like, I'm in a group of people cheering. I didn't know when that was going to happen again. And it happened very, very suddenly and soon. And we were in the vaccinated section. So we were shoulder to shoulder with people, like, again, deep and like no, I thought I was going to be dipping my toe in, but I
think you were actually in the supposedly vaccinated section.
No, we had to show our card.
Oh, you
wouldn't
did?
Have been let in.
I'm over here, guys.
No, when we got there were so many different checkpoints, and you would have been so aggravated, and that could have been a whole story. But I'm not
surprise. Like it doesn't matter, that would have happened normal times. But
we finally get to because we checked in at the vaccinated check-in, and they're like, "Oh, your tickets are actually for a different section, and you can't check in here. You have to check in over go up these stairs."
I will fucking end you.
So we finally found our correct vaccinated check-in, and there's folding tables of people that you go up to show your card and your ID, and they give you a wristband to show that you're vaccinated. And but before you can get to those tables, there was like a family of 15 people in front of us, just sort of standing there looking upset. And there was like a worker talking to them and then left and then came back. And
it was just a husband and a wife and their 13 kids, or what?
Yes. It was like a huge group. And someone finally was like, you could go around them and come to us and check in. But it was because they had a baby with them. Mm-hmm. And the baby didn't have a vaccination card.
Honey, you're going to have to go home. Babies can't get vaccinated, right?
No. I think you have to be 16 and over.
Well, I think it's changed now. I think 12-years, like 12 and up is allowed to be vaccinated.
I'm not caught up.
Oh, I have a ticker, like a stock ticker in my kitchen.
We're up to 11. We're up to 11.
It's just tape coming out.
But we were outside and we kept looking at each other. It was very surreal and very overwhelming and fun, but just like, is this real life?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's going to take a while to get acclimated to that stuff. When I was like walking around Pasadena this week, I was like, do I need to have my mask on? They said it's okay not to have it on when you're outside, but I don't want to upset anybody. It's
right. I don't want to look like an anti-masker, but
I'm not required to wear this anymore. Right. Am I? Maybe I am. I don't know. You talking about Dodger Stadium and being me sitting so far away reminds me, and I just want to mention this to people because it's worth looking up if they can find it. There's a guy named Rob, and I can't remember his last name, but he's a UCB guy. Rob Lathan, that's his name. Look up Rob Lathan lost at Yankee Stadium because I think it's a Yankee Stadium. It might be Shea Stadium. This was many years ago. He went to a game with a bunch of UCB people, and he just spent the entire game wandering the stadium, pretending that he couldn't figure out where his seats were. So the whole section where these people were sitting stopped watching. I mean, that's how boring baseball is. They stopped watching the baseball game and they were just like, where the fuck is Rob? And then he would show up in an entryway, like all the way across the stadium. And the whole section would be like, Rob! And he would just be standing there with beers, like looking around, like he didn't know where the voice was coming from. It's so funny. Kind of a brilliant prank, but Anyway, worth looking up. So
Well,
who won the game? I guess the Dodgers.
The
did. They
Dodgers
scored
won.
8
The
runs
Dodgers
in the
won.
3rd inning.
Right. The Dodgers won. It was a good game. But also just like the row in front of us was a bunch of 22-year-olds. I'm guessing they're 22. Like they looked like absolute babies. Like they looked gangly like children, but they were drinking beer. And it was just fascinating to people watch. I realize I haven't done that in so long and like hear what other people are talking about. And
I got Moderna. How about you, Pfizer? I got J&J.
But yeah, we came home and it was a lot. It was a lot to prepare the house to have a guest. We had our first guest, Lampy. We had to leave our puppy for the first time.
What do you have to do to prepare the house?
Well, I personally don't like the idea of like, I want it to be as much as we have a puppy and everything's nuts. Like, I don't want her to feel like she's sitting in a gross place. So like I cleaned the apartment pretty well. I scrubbed it kind of top to bottom.
Sorry, you don't want the puppy to feel like she's sitting in a gross place?
Lampy.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted her to feel comfortable and have like snacks for her and because she's doing us such a solid. And so it was a lot of like emotional labor to get ready to go out. And then we went out, and when we came back, he was so pumped. Smudgy, our puppy, was like, "This is insane. Like, you guys came back. I thought that was never going to happen." Like, he was like doing backflips, and we were all amped because we haven't
been away from him.
Well, and done anything out in the world for so long.
Right.
So, yeah, we went to bed really late, and then I still woke up with him at 6 a.m. So I'm pretty tired right now. But it's maybe I should save something for parting shots.
Don't do it. Leave it all on the table.
I have.
There's always more in the tank. There's always more in the tank.
So
I like that you guys feel like you have to clean the apartment for the pet sitter to come over.
100%. Oh, you've never met my mom.
I actually have.
But it's ingrained in me. If a human being is in your apartment,
one time I went
shamed into making your apartment look as nice as possible.
One time I went home with this girl. This was like a long time ago, before the pandemic, many decades before the pandemic. I went home with this girl, and she was living with her parents, which was a little awkward anyway.
Recently?
No. This is, like I said, decades ago.
Okay.
Years ago. I was very young. And so I went home. This girl was still living with her parents. And the mother was like, who is that? And the girl was like, "Oh, this is my friend Sean." And the mom was like, "Oh," they were like in bed, the parents were asleep in bed, and they were just like, she was just yelling back to the other part of the house. And she was like, "Oh, hey." And then we just kind of like were still, I don't even remember where we were or whatever, but I just heard her mom then turn to, I don't know, I assume she turned to the father and was like, "Oh God, Paul, I hope the toilet is clean."
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
In my head, I was like, it doesn't matter, You don't know.
I hope that you stop yelling at your daughter. So, right.
But yeah.
I get it. Well, because we've been fairly good housekeepers, but I think the dog, some things went on the wayside. We hadn't been mopping as frequently and stuff.
Dog urine.
No, just we clean up the dog urine, Sean, turns out.
It's splashing in the kitchen again.
It's like a waterfall. So all of that happened. That already seems like I've done more social activity.
That's a lot.
Than I have in a year. And then
it is more than you've done in a year.
My friend Whitney, who you know.
I don't know Whitney.
Yes, you do.
I don't think so.
Yes, you do. Whitney Tubner.
Doesn't ring a bell.
You absolutely know her. We've done this before. You're just being difficult.
Agree to disagree.
Anyway, she during the pandemic moved to Laguna Beach, and she had a baby. Like, just little tiny things.
Sure.
And she was up in LA visiting.
Hey, how are you? Well, moved to Laguna Beach, had a baby.
So she was visiting LA today, and she was like, "Oh, can you meet up in the park or something?" And I
just very vague. Like, can you meet up in a park or something? I'll give it a shot. I mean, there's a few parks, but I'll give it a shot.
It reminds me of one of the last times Jeff's parents were visiting. They like met at my house, and we were driving separately, but they were like, "Let's go to Santa Monica. We'll see you in Santa Monica." Like, bye.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I was like, "That's insane." And then we found them.
Right.
I can't
at the same like parking lot or something, right?
But I was like, that's like saying I'll see you in Orange County. Like, okay.
Well, I was thinking about that when I emailed you the other day about that person's name. I was like, do you know this person? And it was because they used to work at a giant corporation with you. And it was like, it's like when you go, I'm from St. Louis, and somebody goes, "Oh, St. Louis. Do you know a guy named Phil? Right. He's from St. Louis." It's like, no, I don't know that person.
Well, and maybe you don't, but I always feel the pressure for a second to be like, Phil, yeah, maybe.
I have too many other pressures to ever worry about that pressure.
But so she's in town, and she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do like a meetup of friends from LA at the
you don't have to say what park.
I'm not going to protect people's privacy.
Yeah.
But I was like, Smudgy has his class at that time, so I don't think I can, but like maybe we'll figure out something in the afternoon.
He's going to be a doctor.
But then I got home from Smudgy's class, and maybe that will be firing shot, very exciting stuff. I was so tired.
Solve for X, Smudgy.
I was so tired from the wine bar and the baseball game, and also still waking up at the butt crack with this little puppy, that I fell asleep hard when we got home in the afternoon. And I just woke up not that long ago, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
And she texted me, and she's like, "No pressure at all, but I'm at my friend Maddie's house, and she lives really close to you. Here's the address." And I was like, I have to podcast in a half hour. Like, I'm not getting in my car, even if it's close. Like, forget it. So I looked it up on Google Maps, and it's 300 feet away from my apartment. So I was like, yeah, I guess I'll stop by.
Could you, I hate to be a pain, but I don't like driving. I haven't done it in so long.
So literally 1 minute before we started podcasting, I went a block away and was like, "Hi, Barbara. Hi, Whitney. I'm going to hug you for the first time and like talk to you for 5 minutes and then leave because I have a podcast to do." But like,
I wish this had happened before I went to the wine bar and imprinted on those two people who I like a lot, but not as much as I like you guys.
But so I'm just saying, like, I feel like I'm shoehorning a lot of social interactions on accident.
This is a crazy amount of stuff for any time, but especially after you've done nothing for a year and a half,
But her friend who lives 300 feet away has a house with an enclosed backyard and a small dog. So I was like, hey, I have a small dog. So I might make that happen.
I have a small dog and a swampy kitchen.
Just urine. But yeah, it's I flew through all of that because it felt like there was a lot to talk about, but we could go in more depth on any of those encounters if you want to.
Go for it.
Just do it.
Do it. Or do you want me to like ask very specific questions?
Yeah, I would like that.
Did you get a hot dog at the baseball game?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
But we also
Dodger dog?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we got there and we like I was telling Jeff the closest feeling that I could relate it to is when you go to the airport when you have like a red eye, so it's like way too early in the morning and everything's kind of overwhelming, like where you're supposed to go generally, but everything is a little confusing as well. That's what it was like. So we got there and we also were starving because now we're so used to like we get off work, we eat dinner, like we have these routines.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're like disoriented. We finally got checked in. We went past that family of 15 people with their disease-ridden babies, and we were like, we're
ma'am, I don't think your baby can come in. His nose is falling off.
We were like, let's definitely get a hot dog and a beer before we even sit down, so that
just a beer, not the what's the thing they have
michelada?
there? The michelada. Yes.
I love a michelada, but no, I was.
What is? Can you describe to our listeners what a michelada is?
A michelada. It's a beer with basically, let's be frank,
clam juice.
Well, it's Bloody Mary mix.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but it's like a tomato juice product that's salty and spicy.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there's like a clam juice element, but not always. It's not required.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's just like a salty. It's really good.
It looks absolutely disgusting, and it's very popular in the bleachers at Dodgers games.
Yeah, well, because then you the rim is lined with salt and
like a margarita.
Yeah, but I forget the word tahada. I want to say like that. It's like the lime and chili. It's the same stuff that vendors put on fruit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really
it looks
good.
disgusting. Like
it's
I've
really
only been
salty.
to one Dodger game, and I was like, that is so gross. Bring that nowhere near me. But Perfect. I know that everybody drinks them there.
Loves it. There was a lot of people. Well, that was the other thing. We were in like the center of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
So once we were there, I was like, it was so stress-inducing asking 11
you don't want to keep going back and forth.
No, so I was like, this is it. I'm here. If anybody walks by selling
if you drink
anything,
a bunch of beers, then you're in trouble because you got to keep going back and forth.
Right. And so I was like, if anyone walks by selling anything, I'll get it, but I'm not getting up again. I just can't. So I bought some popcorn, and it was, again, we're in a pandemic.
Dogecoin. Like, I just think it'd be funny if somebody was selling that stuff I don't even understand.
But yeah, it was very overwhelming. We got our hot dog, we got our beer, and we were like, and the thing, Jeff brought this up. The thing about going to a baseball game, I don't know if you feel this way too, but even outside of a pandemic, the first like 5 minutes are like, oh, right, how do I get comfortable? Like, where do I keep my food? Where do I keep my beer? Like, it's a little bit of an adjustment. And I think the pandemic, not being in public, not interacting with other humans, just amplified all of that. So it's like, I just was like, I'm going to eat my hot dog as quickly as possible so I don't have to worry about it existing anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the thing about baseball, which I don't care for, but I think this is what appeals to some people about it, is it doesn't require a tremendous amount of focus. Like you can walk in and go, who's exactly doing what right now? And the chances are most of them are not doing anything. They're just standing around waiting for shit to happen, you know? Whereas in a basketball game or a football game, it's like, oh, that guy has the ball. That guy's trying to get to that place. He's trying to do this thing. In baseball, it's like, something may happen at some point. We'll see. Oh, look, that guy's walking over to talk to that guy for a few minutes. That guy who's standing up on a little hill for some reason.
But basketball is almost... I'm going to get roasted for what I'm about to say. I know it already. So just...
Get ready to roast?
Yeah. But like basketball is arguably too exciting. In the sense.
Yeah, I hate that.
No, I love it. But
set roasters to stun.
When I first started watching it, like you're just like, oh. And I want to do that in the fourth quarter. I don't want to do it for 4 quarters.
Well, the good thing about the NBA is you don't have to do it till the fourth quarter because that's the only time that matters. But that is the thing with baseball is like, hey, everybody. I've got the ball. Let's see if I can do something with it.
It was so beautiful, though. Like you see the sun setting, and there's the palm trees.
Dodger Stadium is cool. It's a cool.
So LA iconic.
Yeah, it's old. Like I don't know if
Mhm.
it's the oldest stadium in the league, but it's definitely one of the oldest at this point. So it's just a cool place to see a game.
And we hadn't been there. I hadn't gone there for any tests or vaccines or voting or anything. So
All the things
we went
they
there
do
for
there that
one
aren't baseball.
drive-in game last year. It ended up not being the World Series winning game, but the game before that. We went to
so it was a World Series game, just not the one that they won at.
Right, but that's when everything was closed. I don't know if you remember 2020 at all, if this is ringing any bells.
It's a blur. But so you drove and sat in the parking lot while the game was going on.
And watched it on a big screen in the parking lot, which was fun because we would honk together and flash our lights and stuff. Like it's like the closest we can get to a communal experience.
Right. But still doesn't count as actually going to a World Series game.
No, I don't think so.
Right. It's not sitting at home and watching it from your couch.
Right.
It's you guys basically had the worst of both worlds, traffic and parking, but not actually seeing the game.
Well,
but also not the comfort of being at home and getting things cheaply.
And no concessions at all. And they didn't let alcohol in. They searched your car. But we had a flask of whiskey.
Nice.
I was we're not gonna go to a 3-hour baseball game or whatever and just stone cold sober. What are we talking about?
This podcast could be used in your trial. Yeah.
Well, okay, here's what killed me. So they literally opened up the car and searched, and we had a cooler, but inside the cooler it was just bubble water, which I know you make fun of me for saying, but that's how I call it.
It's weird to say that.
What do you say?
Soap for blowing bubbles with.
And snacks and stuff. And the flask was under Jeff's seat. But the guy asked, also we're in our late 30s, we're white. They're looking for teenagers. We're using our privilege for evil, but it's fine. But the guy was like, do you have any alcohol in this car? And Jeff was like, and I was like, no, just say no. You're bad at this.
I mean, sure. Why would we not have alcohol? We have a flask right under my seat. He's joking.
But it actually was sir. He's a good choice for a husband because he can't lie for shit.
Do you have alcohol in the car?
When you say do, what do you mean?
Do you mean rubbing alcohol? No, absolutely not.
Then still no. Yeah. But yeah, I think naturally I'm half introvert, half extrovert. And my introvert side has grown stronger in the past year because it's needed to survive. So
well, you seem like an introvert on the outside, but on the inside, you're really an extrovert.
I think it's the opposite.
I don't think so.
Wait, go.
I couldn't say that again if I
You think on the outside I'm an introvert, but on the inside, you seem
like an introvert on the outside, but on the inside, you're an extrovert.
I see what you're doing. But I also don't think that's true. I think I'm the
Fair
opposite.
enough.
I think people are like, you're definitely an extrovert. And I'm like, I'm good at it, but I will need to sit in a dark
But don't you think everybody is like that? People are like, oh, that guy's so outgoing, but everybody has so much more going on inside than anybody notices.
Right. But I think some people are legitimately energized by human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I am. I like them, all right, but I was bringing all of that up to say tomorrow I'm probably just gonna have to
decompress
quietly.
Yeah. You're gonna be like one of those little dolls that lean against the wall like this.
So
do you know
creepy.
Do you know those things I'm talking about? Yeah.
So I'll stop talking eventually, but Smudgy has an aversion to leashes. And so we're trying to slowly but surely get him.
I remember in class, they were putting a leash in front of him and giving him treats and going, look at the treat. It's on the leash.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's gotten that part.
Don't tell me he ate the leash.
No, he didn't. But if you put a leash on him, it is so funny because it happened today in class. Wait, now I'm literally not leaving myself anything in parting shots.
It's fine. It's fine. There's always more in the tank.
In class, the same thing happened. But so he's this little puppy and he's like kind of cocky and he barks like he's like a tough guy. You put a leash on him and it's so funny, but it's also heartbreaking. Like his will to live just gets immediately drained out of him. And like his ears go back and we took him outside because I was like, I want him to experience outside. I thought he would like it. Like he's not getting enough stimulation. So we put a leash on him and I sat him down in the parking lot of our apartment. Like that's the most outside he's been on the ground. Mm-hmm. He immediately started screaming like he was getting stabbed. He started peeing involuntarily like a baby, like not like, oh, I'm squatting to pee. Like he was just peeing.
Smudgy, no, you're supposed to do that in the kitchen.
And then once he was done with all of that, why that made me think of it, the wall thing, is he just like put his forehead against my body. Like he just was like, I can't with this world. Mm-hmm. And he was so scared, this little guy. But in class today, we were doing some more of it with the trainer. And it made me feel better because I was like, are we doing something wrong? And she's like, he thinks the leash is going to kill him. And it's actually pretty funny because he doesn't have much of a fight. Like his reaction is kind of just like, I'm about to die now. And what's the point?
No, don't give me a blindfold. Just a cigarette.
Right. Well, we'll give him a treat. And he's like, what's the point? I'm dead anyway. Like, he becomes a completely different dog. So we're working on that. But it was really funny to roast my puppy with our trainer because we were all talking about how
See, I knew there was something going on at those schools. They're just cooking the dogs, right?
Yes. But we were all saying like he needs to start getting like bangs over his eyes and like painting his nails black. Like he's just so sensitive and emotional. But as soon as we put the leash away, he was like, hey, how you guys doing? Like he was acting as though he was traumatized in a way he would never recover from. And as soon as the leash was away, he was like, hey girl, hey. Like it's wild. He's a different dog.
It's crazy that it has that big of an effect on him.
I know. And so that's what she said. It's just going to take patience of just doing it like a minute every day incrementally, which is a bummer because I kind of wanted a magic silver bullet of like, now he's good on leashes and you can go places. But
if only the world worked that way in anything. Mm-hmm. I guess the lottery, you win the lottery and all of a sudden you're a millionaire, but that's basically the only way that works, you know?
But I hear all these horror stories of people becoming more depressed because they won the lotto and they don't know who to trust.
Yeah, everybody wants their money and they don't know, or they spend it all right away on stuff.
Because they're not good with money. They have no financial education. But also going back to Smudgy being deathly afraid of the leash, it is so funny because it's like, I'm the one holding the leash. In theory, I'm the one bringing
you could snap his neck like a twig.
Well, that's not what I was saying. But then he still comes to me for comfort. So I was like, I don't know where this logic comes from, my Bubba. Like,
right. He'll figure it out. Sooner or later, he'll realize you're not the one who's going to help him.
But it's cute to see. I'm going to get hate for this. Dog stuff is tough. It's like baby stuff. Like, I feel like people are going to have a very strong opinion one way or the other, but it is what it is. But there's something actually, because he acts like such a tough guy in our apartment and like barking at the delivery guy and like, hey, like to see him such a little baby, it is like cute and like a reminder of like, you're just a baby. Right. You're scared of everything. And we're going to get you through this part.
Dear Long Shot Podcast, how dare Amber talk about dogs in such a way?
Well, I just talked for 1,000 hours.
Well, speaking of Dear Long Shot Podcast, let's take a break for a moment, and then we'll come back and we will do some mailbag bags of mail. A bag. We have a bag. We have a small bag with a few pieces of mail in it, and we will read those and discuss right after this important message.
Hey everybody, it's Sean, and unlike usually, I'm going to tell you to do something different this week. Not tell you, you can do whatever you want. I'm asking if you might be willing to follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @LongShotPodcast. You can also follow Amber at Amber_Kenny. You can follow Jamie Flam at Jamie Flam. You can follow Joe Wagner at Brother Wags with an S. And my Twitter is at Sean Conroy. And we all have various parts of life that we explore through our Twitter personae. So jump on board. Now back to our show.
From the top. So Charles Manson, right?
Son of Sam was a cult. Okay. We are back. You are listening. You ready? Aaron?
Rolling? Yeah, sorry. I'm rolling.
Okay.
Leave it in. Leave it in.
What a fuck up. We're back. You are listening to The Long Shot. It is a podcast. Can I just complain about one thing for a second?
This would be the first time you asked permission.
I don't like to do that. But it's not really a complaint. It's just an observation. Because I guess in a sense, it's a taste of my own medicine. But I've been teaching a ton over the course of this whole thing. And for the first time in a long time, I have a student in one of my classes right now who's doing, I don't know, teaching is hard, because you're saying, I know a lot of things about the thing you want to know about, so I'm going to try to inform you about this thing that you are interested in.
Well, and every person learns in a different way and processes in a different way.
And comes to the class with different ideas of stuff
and knowledge, pre-knowledge and post-knowledge.
And you want to hope that people who are in the class, and I think this is generally true, are giving you the benefit of the doubt. They're like,
we signed up for it. I think that you're the expert.
I think this person probably knows what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Oh, you have someone who's challenging you?
Yeah, who's like, I don't think you really know what you're talking about, like from day one. And I don't know if it's on purpose or by accident, but it
might just be their personality.
Yeah, like, well, you said this thing last week and now you're saying this other thing. Mm-hmm. And do you really know what you're and the difficulty is when you're teaching, I am kind of flying by the seat of my pants in terms of like, this is what I have learned and I am trying to communicate that to you
and this is
in a way that will be helpful to you.
But it doesn't mean it's like the end all be all.
Right. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm trying to explain this as best I can. And it's very hard. I find it very difficult. I think I do it okay, but I do find it difficult not to get defensive in those situations. Sure. And go like, whoa, hold on.
Well, because it sort of feels like, why are you teaching this on some level?
Yeah, exactly. It feels like the person, and I think, who knows? But I would suspect that if I said it feels like you're attacking me, that person would be like, no, absolutely not. Like I'm not.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, but it feels sometimes like they're basically saying, this is how my brain works, is it starts to feel like they're going, you don't know what you're talking about, So it's just been interesting to try to navigate that in a way that is, I guess, still encouraging to that person and everybody else that they should keep asking questions and stuff, while at the same time going, I just want you to know, I do understand this on a level that somebody who's been doing it for 20 years does, and somebody who hasn't doesn't,
But it doesn't mean that there aren't other ways. This is the way that I do it, and this is the way that I'm teaching you because this is the class that you signed up for.
Right. It doesn't mean that there aren't other ways, but the fact that there are other ways also doesn't mean that I am wrong.
Right. 100%. Yes.
I have one method thing that I teach, and the question today was
where you have to become the script.
Right. Yes, it's a method acting thing I teach in my writing classes. I teach everybody to act like Marlon Brando when they're doing a reading. So today I'm going to read from the script of the pilot for Friends. But the question was basically, and again, I've been very clear about this from the beginning of like, this is what I have learned how to do, and this is how I do it, and I'm going to share with you the way that I do it. And the question came up of like, is this a thing we'll ever have to do for a standard industry thing? And I was like,
no, I found it helpful. Like I said,
and also there is no industry like
standard.
There's not a thing that you're going to go like, this is how you, I mean, there certainly are things like that with script writing. Like you put,
a period
name of the character above the, but in terms of like coming up with the ideas, there isn't like, this is how you do it. It's just like, this is a method that I use.
And there's no policing of it. Like no one would say like, oh, how did you come up with that idea? Like, these are all just for idea generation in particular. I feel like that's just tools
to
help you out. No one,
and that's
you don't have to show your work is what I'm saying. It's not a math equation.
No one's going to be like, how come you didn't do it this way? I thought you were supposed to do it this way.
Right. Just write about your family.
And I get that some people's brains just like, I guess this is why I stopped teaching improv, because I had this kind of problem all the time of like, what's the right way? What's the right way? And it's like, there is no right way. You just have to figure out your own process and do what works for you. Here is me and what I have figured out. And hopefully it will help you determine your own method,
Yeah. But I have empathy for those people because it would be nice if there was a right way for anything. I don't think that's the case for almost anything in the world. Like there's things that you can do that are wrong and immoral and bad, but there's not a right way in corporate America. There's not a right way in creative America. Like it would be simpler if it was more black and white. You're either on the right path or the wrong path, and it unfortunately isn't like that.
Yeah. And I guess you're saying corporate America and creative America. I only have experience really with creative America. That's where I've lived my entire adult life.
And I'm proud to be a creative American.
But I haven't thought about it from the point of view of being involved in corporate stuff. But I do feel like in terms of creativity, there is no way you can say this is what you have to do. And anybody who says that is to be taken with a grain of salt, you know? Like this is the only way to do it. Like I always try to make it very clear that this is a way and there are lots of ways.
Well, and the industry and the art form themselves keep changing. Mm-hmm. So getting locked into one way is only going to be a disservice to you in the long run. Anyway, like being a little bit nimble is probably a more valuable asset.
That said, I don't know why this person keeps doing it wrong.
You're like, there isn't a wrong way except that, my friend.
My way or go Chicago. A different way. Yeah. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to complain about.
Yeah, that's tough. Well,
it's not even, I guess what it is, what I'm really complaining about is how hard I feel like it is to, this is so crazy, but to just be like, yeah, of course, sure. No, definitely. You should definitely be questioning everything I'm saying, because really you don't know that I actually know anything. I've said I know stuff, but I have a hard time with that, with not being like, here's my ego and I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Well, it's tough because I'm trying to think of it from my point of view, even just like teaching the like for fun dance classes. Mm-hmm. There's like a level of imposter syndrome that really comes to the surface once you're teaching anyone. That
I do wear a fake mustache, by the way. Is that what you're talking about?
No, but I could see if anybody was like, why are you teaching this? And my imposter syndrome is like really bubbling up under that surface. It's like, it's not a good match. It's
right.
Like, you need people to be like, thank you for teaching this. This is great. You deserve to be teaching this on some level. Like,
right. And that's a whole other funny part of the thing. And this is something that we've talked about before, where one thing that's been really gratifying to me about this whole, I don't want to say gratifying about the pandemic, but for whatever reason, because I've been teaching on Zoom this whole time, and Zoom, for whatever reason, I guess maybe because you're in people's faces way more and you're like reading everybody and paying really close attention and way more. I mean, this is why it's so exhausting, because I am so physically connected to everybody in every class.
And it's like personal, and you see their life on some level.
And what's been really gratifying about doing that over the course of the pandemic is, to what you're saying, at the end of every class, when I have my final conference with people, way more than has ever happened before. It's happened before to a certain extent, but way more than has ever happened before in these classes has been people saying basically what you're saying. Like, yeah, this has been incredible. This is great. I loved it, whatever. But, and this is what I'm saying, we've talked about before, that stuff goes out of my head.
Of course. The first negative
Whereas the
comment,
person who goes,
that gets,
I don't think you know what you're talking
right here. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, oh, let me engrave that on my eyelids so that every time I close my eyes, I see those words.
First thing when I wake up, last thing before I go to bed. That's what I will think about.
So yeah, it's the human condition. What can you do? All right. So I mentioned before that we wanted to talk about some mailbag stuff, and feel free to send us email. We may or may not eventually get to it, but why not send it nonetheless?
Let's lean towards May.
We may. Yeah. And what's our email address? Is it info@thelongshotpodcast.com?
Oh, no.
Mailbag@mailbag.mailbag or
no. Here, I'm looking it up.
All right. Well, you look it up. I'm going to read the first email that we got, and it is it's from somebody named Joe Schmo.
Mailbag at thelongshotpodcast.com.
.com? You love babies. So this is from Joe. Yeah. Mailbag at thelongshotpodcast.com.
Nice and lengthy. We like a mouthful.
Send us an email and we may read it. We may not, but we're leaning towards May. It is May. Joe Schmo writes, hello, Joe, Jamie, Amber, and Sean. On an old episode, Jamie is upset at the term space shuttle. I don't remember that episode. Do you remember Jamie being upset?
But we were just talking about space shuttles.
I know. Oh, well, I think that's why. I think I brought it up because I had been thinking about it. And yeah, the shuttles or orbiters.
I'm stupid because I'm like, wow, that's really interesting that we're both thinking about. Okay.
Podcasting. We were just doing a podcast and now we're...
What are the odds? Right. Sure.
The shuttles or orbiters flew 133 missions, often taking cargo to the International Space Station or deploying top secret satellites, and were about as close to a shuttle as is possible in space. There were 6 shuttles total, though sadly we lost 2 and their crews. What do you all think about humans in space? Is the exploration and scientific advancement worth it? Quiz. How many people? Yes, they were all white men. Something important to note, so we remember to be inclusive in the future, have walked on the moon. If no one knows, maybe someone can Google it for fun. I'd find most people think the answer is interesting.
Hot tip.
You all are so entertaining. Thanks for coming back, Joe. So first question, is the exploration and scientific advancement worth it? Humans in space.
I don't have a popular answer. Nobody's going to like what I'm about to say. But no, it feels like right now we're just putting a lot of trash into space and onto Earth for space exploration, and there's a lot of fossil fuels being burnt. I understand that discovery and exploration are valid and important, but I personally feel like we need to figure out some shit on Earth before we focus attention outside of Earth. Again, not popular. I'm not fun. Moving on.
Why are discovery and exploration important?
Because we might find something that we can't even possibly imagine or comprehend right now. I don't know. Because people say that it is. That's why I said that as like a preamble.
Well, I guess I'm only saying that because it occurs to me that the reason that discovery and exploration is important, or has always been important,
colonialism?
I would boil it down even further than that. Somebody's going to make money from it.
Right.
That's what it's all about. You think Elon Musk is doing this out of the kindness of his heart?
No. But I do think there are scientists that are coming at it from like a pure curiosity.
Quest for knowledge.
Yes. But I don't know if that's a good enough reason right now. Is that bad? Am I bad?
No. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. There is so much fucked up shit going on here on Earth right now that why do we want to open it up to more fucked up shit going on in outer space? Because what good is going to come from that? It's going to be more, like you said, colonialism. It's going to mean more wars about who gets this part of Mars and who gets that part of Mars. Right. You know, it's going to be more like, oh, maybe we can experiment with a death ray on Mars that we couldn't use on Earth, and then we'll have this other thing. You know,
then is it like, oh, all of our prisoners are on Mars, or like, I don't know what's going to happen with the
right. It starts to turn into a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Yeah.
You know, like, we'll banish these people to Mars.
They aren't well written.
No. You're talking about Van Damme movies?
Yes.
I mean, that guy can do a split like nobody's business.
Oh,
but
man. I can't do it.
As far as writing, they needed to take a writing class. Yeah. Now, there's no guarantee that the person teaching the writing class would know what they were talking about. No, I just feel like there's so many problems to solve already here. And I get that of like the pure quest for knowledge, but none of it is pure at this point. It could be pure in one person's mind, but they are working for somebody who's making money, or that person is working for somebody who's making money.
And I think
sees it as a big payoff down the line.
And I think those genius people with those big creative minds, like we have real deal problems that but you know, science isn't real, everyone's lying, so what's the difference? But like, wouldn't it be amazing if we could figure out a way to not, even though people have, and this has stopped it in the past, but like burn fossil fuels every day for our normal commutes? Wouldn't it be amazing if...
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's not like we don't know how to do that. It's that it doesn't make people enough money, and the people who are making money from doing it want it to keep going.
They kill it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you...
Have I gotten a coal burning car?
Have you watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit recently?
No.
It's a good movie.
Did they ever figure out who it was?
Yeah, totally they do.
No, why are you saying that? Because is that the streetcar stuff that's in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much it holds up. I know it's a silly movie, but it's like LA could have
holding up. How about that dress on Jessica Rabbit, you know?
Okay, that's a drawing.
And
but like LA could have been a mecca of public transportation. And now it's like it's hard for people to wrap their head around even expanding the subway. Like it seems too hard because we're so ingrained in car culture. And I'm a part of it. Like I'm not.
Oh,
I'm
me
not
too.
I'm not
too.
trying to say that I'm above it.
But you know, we were just talking about this a couple of weeks ago. But like, go out on the highway and see how many cars have more than one person in them.
Right.
It's fucking crazy. But yeah, it's all about making money. It's all about who is making money.
Right. I think we've even talked about it on this podcast before, but there's a meme where it's like complaining about traffic and it shows all of the people in traffic, but without the vehicles they're in. So like to your point, it's just like single people and then a bus with like a bunch of people together or like a bike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not describing it well. I'll try to find it and I'll send it your way. But it does make it like, oh, wow. We can easily consolidate a lot of this congestion.
Right.
But we just choose not to.
Because
it isn't convenient and people are making money off of it. So they're incentivizing us not changing the system and the status quo.
So anyway, the point is, yes, we should all move to Mars.
Wait, what was the question? And how many people went to Mars? I don't know.
No. It was about is the scientific advancement worth it? I also just saw a thing. And of course
I'm usually the only person who feels that way.
No,
That's why
I agree. I agree. And I also saw a thing because then there's a whole thing of like there has to be there's definitely aliens out there. Do you agree with that or no?
Sure, but leave them the F alone.
Well, no. That's what I was going to say is like people are like, well, we need to make contact with other forms of life. And I only read the headline, of course, because I'm a fucking asshole. But it was an article in, I think, The Guardian by a physicist or about a physicist who does string theory. And there may be a comprehensive theory of everything. And one of the things he was saying was like, trying to make contact with aliens will be a disaster for humanity. Like no matter what, it's going to be horrible. I've
seen a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie before.
They're going to use us for food. That's it. You know,
right.
We are food.
But also like just
whatever other cultures are out there.
Just let them be.
Right.
What was that song?
You're talking about Walking on the Moon by the Police?
Yes.
I hope my leg won't break walking on the moon. But speaking of which, sorry, go ahead.
This is on how many people walked on the moon.
How many people walked on the moon, do you think?
I have no idea, but I would guess like 7.
I'm going to say 294.
That's a lot.
Is there a way to Google that?
I don't think so.
I guess.
Here, I'll Google it right now.
Send an email to Longshot Podcast.
I'm Googling it. Hold on.
Anyway,
everybody.
Thank you, Joe Schmo. We are appreciative of the fact that you emailed us and we all learned a little bit about our own attitudes about space exploration today. Like 12, Amber and I don't 12. So I was closer without going over.
Ugh. No, you weren't. I was.
No, I said 294. That's closer. I was closer without going under.
So when you Google how many people have walked on the moon, you know how it automatically auto-populates?
Yeah.
And the two options were how many people so far I already fucked it up. Let's start again. So it auto-populated how many...
Hey, we were just talking about Charles Manson. Oh, no, you meant start from...
How many people have walked on the... Like I typed in M and then it was moon. And the next one it was how many people have walked on the moon so far? Yeah, I didn't think it was definitive.
I could answer both of those questions with the same answer.
Yes, exactly. But thank you.
That also makes me think for some reason and I think we probably talked about this years ago, but there was a there was a performer in New York when I first started doing open mics. Eddie and I would go to all these open mics, and I remember doing one at a laundromat very early on.
I've done a show at a laundromat.
People were literally just there doing their laundry, and they would have stand-ups come up. And there was a performer who would go up called the human doormat, who would put carpet on their chest and just lie on the floor. That was their thing of like, they would lie on the floor with the microphone and go, come on up and step on me. And that was their whole thing. So how many people have walked on the human doormat? Not me. I never did it. Yeah, so far. Okay, here's the next one. And this is either from the La Lunatic or the LA Lunatic. I'm not sure which one it's supposed to be. Probably the LA Lunatic, but it could be the La Lunatic. Although that would be a double article, so that would be
too many those.
Yeah. Dear Lo Show Po, I love you all. Thank you for all the entertainment. Sometimes you're all together and it's really funny. They're not talking about
sometimes it is funny.
Sometimes it's just two of you.
And it's not funny.
It gets really serious and it's still great.
Oh, thanks.
I love Amber's stories. She is so good at painting a picture, which is different from a story, and making interesting points and observations.
Oh,
one time, Amber was talking about pro wrestling. I believe her husband watches it somewhat regularly.
Yes.
Wrestling is kind of misunderstood, especially these days. These days, it is much safer, less full of giant steroid-filled men, and includes a real women's division that sometimes headlines the show.
I would argue they're more interesting than the men on a regular basis.
Of course you would. But it is what's going on during matches that I thought was interesting to point out. A pro wrestling match is so similar to improv and sketch from what I can tell.
And drag race.
Depending on the match, a certain number of high-profile or dangerous spots will be walked through. That's definitely how it goes in improv. Like when we get to the dangerous spot, we walk through it. But the majority of what happens in the ring are in-the-moment calls and instinctive reactions. If someone in the ring is a more seasoned veteran, they can take the lead and direct the match. But so often it is 2 or 3 or 6 or 10 people improvising with each other to tell the best story they can. They feed off the crowd reactions and constantly adjust. The only thing that can't change is the final outcome. Although a couple of times even that changed, which was very exciting. Anyway, I could talk about that for hours. If any of you are wondering how any of it works, I'd be happy to fill you in. Not that I'm an expert, I just enjoy discussing it. Mostly when it comes to pro wrestling, I'm just trying to push back against people who think it's the lowest form of entertainment and the elitism that can come with that. Similar to the elitism debate surrounding whether Martin Scorsese thinks Marvel movies are cinema or not. One question before I go. If you decided to try and be a pro wrestler, would you rather have an incredibly dramatic turn from being a heel to a face or vice versa? Heels are bad. Faces are good. Sorry about all the parentheses. Until hell or high water, Publius.
Yeah, I have a lot to talk about with that. So
go for it.
On our bathroom break, I walked out and Jeff and Smudgy are watching wrestling currently. I agree with you. I think it's like a spectacle. And on our year sabbatical of the podcast, Jeff got really into independent wrestling. So he would go to like bar wrestling in the neighborhood. And I went to shows with him a couple times. And I will say, I have no idea when it will come back and when we'll feel safe to go. But it was some of the most fun I've ever had because it's just kind of the opposite of the point you were making about baseball, Sean. Like it's an entire room full of people who are watching something happen in the moment. So it's like improv to the dear writer's point. But also the crowd is reacting to it in the moment and kind of collectively become the crowd decides like whose side they're on minute to minute. and it's really fun. It's really a cool thing. I think that I would want to start as a face and turn to a heel. I think that would be a fun, unexpected turn, and I think I would have a lot of fun being a bad guy in the end. But I don't think I could start as a bad guy because look at this. I've got a funny disposition.
Hard to be intimidating and scary when you're
Amber Kenny.
the light at the end of the rainbow.
But to that
in
point,
the blue corner, the light at the end of the rainbow.
They kind of have that. Well, Bailey was sort of that, and now she's a heel, but I'm not buying it. I don't understand what her character is anymore. But this was probably 3 years ago, but I'll still tell the story. When I first started watching wrestling with Jeff, and I don't watch it honestly that often now, but we were at, I think, Whitney's wedding actually, and in the hotel room, we were drunk, and Jeff would just put on the different entrance music for each of the wrestlers, and I would recreate it. And granted, I was drunk and in a hotel room,
but it was a dead-on perfect impression.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Like, wrestling entrances are really fun.
Yeah. I never got into wrestling as a kid. And, I know that La Lunatic says that it's that elitist thing of like, does Martin Scorsese, I can't remember the argument. Does Martin Scorsese think Marvel movies are good or something like that? And I don't think it was elitist. It was just like when I was a kid, I was like, this is so fake. Like, it's so dumb that anybody would think these people are really fighting in any way. And what I realize now is I was kind of missing the point. Like, I don't blame myself for missing the point, but the point wasn't that it was supposed to be real. Like, I kind of thought I was approaching it literally and going like,
I'm supposed to buy that these
guys are deciding who's going to win this before they even start. Right. So I did wrestling in gym, and I know that's not how it works. Like, you actually try to beat the other guy.
It's actually closer to like narrative than sport.
Mm-hmm.
They call it sports entertainment. And I was like, that's a pretty good description.
Yeah, I call it enter sportsment. But I also call it sportsertainment.
Sure.
So I think there's a lot of options. But I do have a friend who was actually a brilliant improviser I used to work with, who now does like semi-pro wrestling and has been on, there's like a local TV wrestling network that plays in LA. And he's been on there a few times and
that's cool.
Does stuff over in the Valley. So I kind of am a little fascinated by it now, and I want to go see him. Like he was doing a thing before all this started. I forget what the name of the character was, but it was something like Wit Privilege or something like that. Like,
that's a good name.
Yeah, like he's
wrestling. The bad guy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. The rich white.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and I saw some video of it, and it was really funny because he was just being a douchebag, and they were doing it in, I think it was somewhere in Compton or something that the match was. So the audience was just like so enjoying ripping into this guy,
Totally. And there's, I'm sure there's different pockets with different political beliefs, but the bar wrestling shows that I've been to have this like amazing sort of liberal bent in the sense that there was one of the wrestlers, I it's been so long I forget the whole thread, but like the whole thing was that he wanted to make out with the guy he was wrestling and he finally kissed him, and the whole crowd booed, and it was kind of like Jeff and I both put our shoulders up like, is this going to be like a homophobic moment?
Yeah.
But the whole crowd started chanting, "No means no." Like, it was like this beautiful moment about consent and not about homophobia at all. And it was like, this is great. This is fucking great. Yeah. Like, Imagine being in a room full of people chanting "No means no." Like, that's cool.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have been. It feels like wrestling over the last I don't know how long has had a real renaissance where it has become much more, I don't know, ingrained in popular culture. And there's so many people now who are like, I always thought wrestling was cool. Like it's cool now to say that you liked wrestling.
You would like hide it. Yeah.
Or I don't even know if like nobody cared,
Right.
Like I have friends from college who were totally into wrestling, but it wasn't a big deal. Like it was like, oh, whatever, do your thing, you idiot,
Yeah, no one cared. You're an idiot.
Whereas now there's all kinds of like one thing that really had an impact on me was watching a documentary about Andre the Giant, and just like the life that he led and what he went through as a wrestler was pretty fascinating. I mean, obviously he was a interesting dude no matter what. And the first time I ever saw UCB perform, I saw them do a sketch show, and one of the things they did was they sang a song about Andre the Giant. Like they had a song called Andre the Giant that the four of them sang. It was like a hymn that they sang in the middle of the show. And I remember very well that this is how long ago that was. They were playing the music on a boombox and singing along to it. And
like
the boombox didn't work. There was something fucked up about the tape, so they had to sing it a cappella.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a tech nightmare.
Well, and that's the thing I think you're hinting at as well too, is that even if it's fake in the sense that the results are preset, they're incredibly talented and in shape in ways that are like they still do physical feats that are mind-blowing.
Athletes, yeah.
Yes. And there's a level of magic. At one of those live shows I went to, there was a match. Again, it was so long ago. I wish I could remember details better. But at some point they were like, I'll wrestle anybody in the audience. Like, you, sir, you come out. He was clearly a wrestler, but he was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, but he was in wrestling shape, and the jeans were stretchy, and they wrestled like professional wrestlers do. And the two guys sitting in front of me, about 10 or 15 minutes in, one of the guys was like, I think that guy's a wrestler. And it was like, yes, I love that there's a Disney quality of people just believe what they're handed.
I guess that's what I was missing as a kid, is the ability to suspend my disbelief.
Right. That's not your strength.
No. No, I'm not.
But it's also fun seeing what is happening and just enjoying the spectacle. I knew the second he got on stage, he was a wrestler.
Right.
But it was still fun. Cool, let's do this.
Here's what I would like to do if I was to do a turn is I would start as a heel. People would know that I was a heel. They already know that. And let's say it was the one where let's just use a real example that you just gave. So it's the one where the guy comes out of the audience and wrestles the other guy, right? So he's like, you, sir, get up here and wrestle. And meanwhile, I had a match previously where I was like, I don't know, what would be my thing? It would be like, the Capitol riots really happened. That's how much of an asshole I would be. It wasn't just tourism. That's. And
your heel turn would just be stating facts.
And people would be like, boo, it didn't happen. It was just tourists. And anyway, whatever it was. So I'm a heel, and I lose my match, and everybody's like, yeah, fuck that guy. And then the next wrestler comes up, a good guy, or no, maybe we don't know if this guy's good or not. And he calls somebody out from the audience, and the guy from the audience comes up, and he is fighting with the guy on the real wrestler. The fake wrestler, who's actually a real wrestler, is fighting with the real wrestler, who we're not sure if he's good or bad.
Right.
And he starts beating the shit out of the guy from the audience. Like he's just wailing on this guy. And now you know he's a heel. And all of a sudden, I come out. I'm all like fucked up from my other match. Right, I still have blood on my face. Yeah. And I like rip off my shirt and undo my sling, and I start going after the real wrestler, and I just beat the crap out of him.
The crowd.
To protect the guy from the audience. And I fucking beat that guy. So that's my turn. I'm like, ha. And everybody's like, yeah. That guy's cool after all. Maybe it was just tourists. And then the other guy, the guy from the audience is like, thanks, man. And he goes to shake my hand, and I fucking flip him over and throw him down and just start pounding on him on the ground. So I like flip it back. It's like a double.
You do it twice. Yeah. No, I think you get wrestling.
And the audience is like, oh no.
There was a guy when I saw the live wrestling again. I keep saying this because it was walking distance. We walked to this bar.
It was in that person's apartment.
Yes, it was 300
or house.
But I'm blanking on his name. But his whole deal was that he's a gentleman, and he came out to Mr. Nice Guy. That was his entrance song, which I was already dying laughing at because that is a hilarious wrestling song. But his like move was that he would pick up somebody and start rocking them, and they would fall asleep, and he would put them down because they were asleep. Like, it's funny.
Yeah, you got to have a gimmick, as they say.
So, did we answer all of them?
I think so. That was what they wanted to know. Was what would your turn be? Similar to the elitism debate surrounding whether Martin Scorsese thinks Marvel movies are cinema or not. The way that's phrased is like the elitism debate surrounding whether Martin Scorsese thinks Marvel movies are cinema or not. Is there a debate as to whether Martin Scorsese thinks Marvel movies are cinema or not? Or is it a debate?
He doesn't think that they're cinema.
So there's no debate about what he thinks.
But the debate whether it is cinema or not. I will say this, like, people are allowed to like different things. And
turns out, yes.
And at least for me, it could span the spectrum. Like, I like some things that I know are truly garbage, but I love them. And there are things that are like the most beautiful high art that I love. And there are things that fall all the way through that spectrum that I don't really care for. They're not for me. That's fine. The thing about art is it isn't for everyone. Like, if it calls to you, it calls to you. And no one is allowed to tell you that something that you love isn't good.
I agree with you. I wish that you would not, on a regular basis, at least twice a week, call me in the middle of the night and go, I'm telling you, Picasso should go fuck himself.
Twice a week, middle of the night.
And I know it's always Tuesday and Thursday. Like, it's the middle of the week. Both ends, I'm like, okay.
Here it comes. Yeah. And I don't know why it's directed at me.
I don't even know the guy. He's dead.
He has nothing to do with me.
Tell Picasso I said, go fuck himself. Okay, Amber, I will do that.
I'm passionate about that because I feel like I spent a lot of my like teens and 20s not sure what I liked, but trying to develop my taste around what I thought other people thought was cool or what I should like. And there's something so freeing in just letting that the fuck go. And like, what hits you. And that's it.
Yeah, you're not doing it wrong. I mean, I always say that about comedy. I'm like, comedy is like food. Like, you love pizza and somebody else loves fish, you know?
Art couldn't be more personal. And I think comedy is even more personal than comedy. I mean, comedy.
But luckily we have the internet where everybody can tell each other they're wrong about everything.
Right.
All right. Here's our last letter. I read this one, and I got to say, it's pretty, well, See what you think. This is from Audrey. Dear Lo Show Po, I'm on the subway to get my second shot and figured I ought to finally write to you. It's been a long time coming. I've been listening since Colored Pencils days, and it honestly feels like I've grown up with you all. You were with me through high school, 2 different colleges, dropping out, losing my job, getting sober, the pandemic, and so much more.
That's insane.
I'm 22 now, and I'd love to share my theory. By the way, that means
she was like 11.
Like,
that's insane.
I don't know if this was appropriate. Yeah.
That's insane. How did you find us? Why did you find us?
She was like, Mom, what's Finger Bang City? So much more. I'm 22 now, and I'd love to share my theory of why I can't get enough Lo Show Po. So hear me out. Hear me out. Sorry, hear me out.
I would love to, I'm asking.
She only said it once. I said it 3 times. You each have aspirations and dreams, just like I or anyone else does. But hearing your realistic progress in mental health, career goals, etc. over the years is weirdly comforting as you hit roadblocks, backslide, and plans fall through.
We're losers.
Well, no, slow down. Amber put it well when she said you all trend upwards in the way it actually happens to most people, a series of poorly timed losses and some wins. Despite the often cruel nature of life, you all find the humor in it and keep in good spirits, reminding me to enjoy the journey and find the silver lining. Thank you for checking in every week, even if all you have to talk about is what you ate. You keep me grounded and remind me to check in with myself. Please keep the podcast long because, like I said, I'm unemployed and this will always be my favorite podcast. I'll listen for 3 hours and still want more. Love you all, Audrey.
That is unbelievably sweet.
P.S. Joe and Amber, please let Sean and Jamie get a word in once in a while.
She just roasted your ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't appreciate that. No, I thought that was pretty.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what blows me away is, are we unique in that? Like,
in terms of
are there not other people? Yeah.
I feel like podcasts are like, okay, let me tell you about this Jean-Claude Van Damme movie that was really a piece of shit. You know, like
we've been vulnerable from the get-go almost on accident because we didn't have anything else to talk about.
Well, and to a fault, because it's like when people go, what's the podcast about? It's like, I don't know. It's about us. We're, you know.
When I was 300 feet away, the person's house who it was, when we were in the backyard, I was like, they offered me a glass of wine and I was like, I have to leave in 5 minutes. I have a podcast. I have
a PBR waiting for me.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, what's your podcast about? And I was like, I don't know. I talk about my life and people like it. And I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, it's an interesting thing.
That sounds so shitty, but I truly at this point, because before we used to say it was like 4 comedians at different stages of their life with different point of views talking about like topics, but we've dropped the topic
100%. Like, there is no topic.
Just like, hey, I ate a sandwich yesterday.
It is just pure navel gazing.
I know.
And I think on the one hand, that's why somebody like Audrey is able to listen to it for 10 years now or whatever, maybe longer. I don't know when Colored Pencils was.
It was early.
Yeah. And be into it and go like she has been willing to come on this journey with us of like, this is our lives. Whereas that's also why we can't turn around and go, hey, commercials, this is what we're selling.
No, we have a very small niche.
Yes. And it's also why you can't go to somebody
hard to, like, write a log line. It's just like,
you can't go to somebody and be like, this is what it is. Yeah.
It's like our journal, basically.
Yeah.
And why us? I don't know.
It just happened. And slowly the artifice has been stripped away. And that's all that's left at this point is, here's what I did this week. Here's what I felt this week.
This is what I'm going to
Here's what I liked and what I didn't like.
Yeah.
Here's what's frustrating me. I feel like there's one of my students attacking me right now. You know, it's just like, and really, I'm not trying to talk anybody out of listening to the show, but you could easily go like, who gives a shit, you know? So it's I
don't want to agree so heartily, but yeah, when I was talking to that stranger, it was, I didn't make it sound like a good podcast. I need to work on that.
Yeah. Aaron's pitching us a new log line. 4 comedians picked to live in a house. Guess which one is Hitler?
Oh, no.
I think that would be interesting.
That's way more interesting than what our actual log line is.
They all talk the same. Well, I noticed you are eating my Chinese food. What's going on? I left that in the fridge for a reason because I was going to eat it later.
Can I say something? I think it's wild that Hitler eats Chinese food. Like, I feel like that's open-minded for him.
Well, what am I going to do? Wipe my ass with it? Come on now. Who's with me, folks? Oh, by the way, I'm doing an open mic tonight if anybody wants to come.
He would.
Who here is from out of town? Go back. Remember when Hitler and the Germans toured Europe, those tourism trips they took through Europe? Well, anyway, Audrey, thank you. And I really do. I feel like an email like that really touches me very deeply in a way that I'm not able to express, you know?
Well, it's sort of what we said at the beginning of her email of like, it's hard for me, and I'm sure for you, but I'll use I statements because that's all I can do, is like understand why people are tuning into this. So this feels like a nice, it's a sweet insight to that.
That somebody's getting stuff out of it. And I think she says it in a way that makes sense to me. You know?
That's what insight is, Sean.
Not familiar with that term. I don't know what you're talking about. Also, I don't listen to you ever. All right. Well, it's time for a segment on the show that we like to call Parting Shots. So let's start today with me. I just wrote down a couple of things, and I'll mention them because they're not particularly interesting. One thought that has kept popping up in my head this week is that Fox News is a criminal organization. Like, I really feel like they should be prosecuted for some kind of fraud or crime of some sort because, and it's not going to happen, obviously.
Treason.
Well, I mean, you're joking, but
I'm not. I'm like,
I literally looked up Benedict Arnold the other day to draw comparisons between him and Tucker Carlson because I was like,
Tucker Carlson, have hollandaise sauce. You have to have a poached egg.
Tucker Carlson is the 21st century Benedict Arnold. Not in terms of his actions, but just in terms of how he will be remembered in the history of this country. You know, like, to me, Benedict Arnold is if you say traitor in American history, that's the first name that pops into your head, I think, or for most people. If it was Family Feud, that would be the number one answer. You know, there's also Robert Hansen.
Move on to the next one.
Rosenberg.
You know? We get it.
But I feel like 100 years from now, Tucker Carlson will be the same kind of reference.
I don't think Trump will age well as well, but
no, absolutely. But I guess I feel like Trump was the president, so it's a little bit of a different category.
Right. He's not like selling a bill of goods.
Right. Well, he is, but but Tucker Carlson is not,
and he's still doing it. Like, he's not like letting up.
He's I hate to use this phrase because it's one of my least favorite phrases and it has been totally abused over the last 5 years, but he is doubling down on everything. He's doing everything. He's taking up the space that Trump was taking up of like, what can I do to make people angrier and more upset at each other? You know?
Right.
I mean, it's so out of hand at this point. Like all this stuff about Marjorie Taylor Greene going to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's office and saying, take your diaper off and come out here. It's like, what the fuck?
Where are we? Yeah. It's
what is happening right now? Anyway, flip side of that, I did decide that there has only been one perfect person in the history of the world. And I realized who it was this week. Do you know who it was? I wonder if, like, again, it's that thing of like Family Feud. What's the number one answer on the board going to be? And I was like, oh, this is who it would be.
I'm dying to know.
Would there be somebody who occurs to you when you think of that? I mean, and again, this is like comedy where everybody has a different opinion of things.
Right.
There's but there is only one.
People would say Jesus.
Yeah, I'm leaving religion out of it. Like, I think.
Well, I don't think he was into religion. I think he.
But that's the only reason
that was attributed to him later.
Right.
He was like, be cool to each other, and everyone's like, cool, let's murder each other in his name.
Yes.
That's what I mean about being a perfect person. Right. No, I don't know. Why don't you just tell me the answer?
I would say Prince. Prince.
Yeah, he's dope.
Like I say that because I was watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony for George Harrison, and
so good,
which I've seen a million times, but I think they maybe just came out with a new version that's like a director's cut or something, and it's like, here's all these rock gods on stage,
and he's just like, let me show you how.
And then another guy comes out and just blows everybody out of the water in so many different ways, like in terms of his musicianship,
and just
but also his showmanship and his everything. And then the very end, it's so, and I had seen this before and whatever, but it's just so funny. Like, he finishes this incredible solo and he just like takes the strap off, fires the guitar up into the air, turns around and walks off stage and disappears, you know? He's like, I don't have to fucking hang around for these people. I'm done.
Right. Well,
so anyway, that was just an interesting.
He spent so much money on I don't know
opiates?
The names of them. No, on charities, but he always did it anonymously. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't about like a PR move so that people know that Prince is a good dude. He just like was doling out money constantly. Like, he gave more money than I want to say, you know,
Jesus.
Bezos for sure. Mm-hmm. And there's something really cool about that. Like, to know that you have the means and to use it for good and to not use it to further your name just because you want to give. That's cool. That's very Jesus-y.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and obviously before I get 100 emails and stuff saying like, Prince wasn't perfect, he did this and this and that. Right. Like, I know there's no such thing as a perfect person.
We're
but
being fun.
Yeah, I was like, holy fucking shit, that guy, you know? What an incredible, incredible human being in so many different ways.
Abby got me a tote bag with Prince on the outside of it for my birthday a couple of years ago.
I know.
And the way it's panned out, that's Smudgy's bag now. So when we go out, we have to pack the Prince bag. And he gets really excited when he sees Prince. So it's just funny that we're talking about Prince now.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing in the good column for Prince. He's got Smudgy's bag wrapped up. All right. Parting shots. Amber.
Sure. So I talked about it last episode, my big presentation on Monday.
Yes, that's right.
It was a big week for me on like a lot of levels. Mm-hmm. It was insane. Like, every day there's a lot that I haven't even scratched the surface on, but everything that could.
By the way, Audrey said we should go 3 hours because she could still go more after that. So.
But my rumbly tumbly says that we shouldn't.
Fair enough.
But everything that could have gone wrong with the presentation did. Like, it was like
for you or for everybody?
for everybody. The I guess the server, we were using Teams instead of Zoom, and they had done an update, and our PowerPoint wasn't progressing as we were presenting. One of our team members just didn't show up.
Perfect.
There was just like the mute things we talked about earlier. Somebody started and was muted. Everything that could have gone wrong did, in like a very comical way, because we actually did rehearse.
Right. Q to Q, tops and bottoms.
Yes, it was still great. All of that said, it was great, and we got great feedback, and everybody was like, I'm so impressed. You guys did a great job. So the guy who didn't show up, I'm still a little dicey on that. So he just didn't show up, didn't say anything.
Did he ever show up after that? You've never seen him since then?
No. I mean, I've never seen him in real life, to be honest, but
you saw him on Zoom though, or on Teams.
Right. So he was partnered with this girl, Danielle, but they still had she was presenting this part of the project and he was presenting this part.
And now over to, oh dear.
So she just had to present it all. And she's she's awesome. She's so professional and so polished. So she's used to having a script, and she kind of had to fly by the seat of her pants for half of it. And she did a great job. It was very impressive. So our presentation wraps up, and we were getting feedback, and they were like, oh, it's great. It's great. It's great. Good job, blah, blah, blah. And then
they sound like they give great notes.
One of the mucky mucks was like, I'm so sorry to do this. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty, so the sound went out on me. Can you present and listed out the slides that were his? So sweet Danielle not only had to fly by the seat of her pants once, she had to do it twice. It felt like she was getting roasted. It felt like she was getting attacked. So, but she did a great job. And we all on chat were like, MVP, you're amazing. Good job. And then a little bit after the presentation, somebody was like, oh, we heard from him. He's got food poisoning.
Bullshit.
This is what I'm saying. I don't want to be the asshole here, but I feel like you could send a message beforehand on some level. Were you unconscious? I don't quite understand.
I just couldn't stop vomiting and shitting enough to send a message.
It was, because our presentation was noon Pacific Standard Time, and I know he's in LA with me. Mm-hmm. So it's you're sick at 8 a.m. I'm not buying it.
Right.
And I also
let the team down. He let the team down,
Also I've been oh, you're me in college where you think you're getting away with it and everyone knew that you were bullshitting.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So that was interesting. He's also the only guy on our team. It was all women and him. And it's funny, it's just dude, you gotta represent for mankind. You're not doing a good job. And we got some positive feedback, but no, remember before I said there might be immediately we work on this project or immediately this. And I think
you guys were going to build a minion or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think on some level emotionally I was prepared for this is it. My life is going to change as soon as I do this presentation. And it was kind of nothing's different, and maybe something will come of it. Maybe it won't. So it's been a little bit of a letdown. It's great that it's over and I don't have to work on it anymore. But I'm not the president of NBC or anything. So stay tuned.
Just remember, life is a sprint, not a marathon. So if nothing happens right away, that's bad.
Then kill yourself. No, please don't, listeners, dear listeners.
Don't take advice from that.
But yeah, and I was really going to bring something up about that. In we had a Connect, which is the group, that development group I'm in is called Connect. We had it like a
with
Connect
a K or a C?
With a C. We had a Connect like all day meeting the day after a presentation. So on Tuesday.
With an I or an O?
An O. Just like normal Connect. Oh man, could you list off every topic we've talked about? Because I remember
we started with Manson.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Talking about connecting.
Yeah. I don't know. I remember we were talking about something and I was like, oh, that's great. I'll circle back to that later. But now I don't remember what it was. But I feel like I've had
sharding potted.
I've parting shotted enough.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that happens sometimes where I'm like, it never works in the moment because
I'm like, oh, that'll be an organic circle back.
And it's like we're having a conversation and you move on to the next thought. Yeah. And then it's like you can't, it's very hard to have that bulletin board in your head where you pin the thing down and go, oh yeah, there it is. I got it. Did it have anything to do with living on Mars?
Maybe.
Folks, this has been the Long Shot, hours of thrills from the Hollywood Hills.
I'll take it.
I think, yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
It's like a full sentence, but that's okay, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Trying to think of other ones. The only ones I can ever think of are like the Thrilla in Manila and the Rumble in the Jungle. It's a trademarking thing, which is a thing we're terrible at on this show, is any kind of marketing or
anything. Oh, today Jeff was like, your videos that you record, those should be on Patreon. You should make people pay for those. And I was like, we're lucky that we got this far, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put those on Patreon. Just this week, somebody tweeted at me and was like, or at all of us, I guess. Was like, are you guys on Patreon?
And I was like, I don't think so, but maybe.
Absolutely not.
We were at one point.
Were we?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we were. I think we talked about it, but we never.
No, we were. We were.
Oh, we were. Right when the show ended.
Mm-hmm.
The first
we're good
time.
At that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for writing in. Please write in. Send in names for the next time that Amber is here, stuck here with just me and no one else. How do we categorize that? Because you know it's going to happen again sometime soon. It could even be next week. That's how soon it could happen again. And we will see you next time on The Long Shot.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I just wish you would let me talk sometimes. Oh, she's gone.